And that should just take a few seconds. And there we go. So now if I refresh this database, look at this right here. Server 1 is primary, secondary, SQL Server 2 is secondary. But if I refresh it, they should switch roles. And it always does. It takes a few seconds, but that's fine. So if I go to secondary here, you can actually see the availability group that is switched over. So it's just taking a few seconds to, and there we go. And now you can see that secondary has become, the secondary replica server 2 was the secondary and has become primary, and the roles have switched. So now look at the databases here. They're synchronized here also. So let me look at this. Let me just close this. Close that. I don't need that. I don't need that. I'll give you that. That I do need. So now if I refresh the database on server 1, connection is broken, recovery is not possible. Attempt to recover connection more times failed. Let me just see what's going on here. So let me look at that, and I'll be back in 1 second. So let me just look at that, what the error was, and then we'll go over it together, what the error was, so we can figure it out. So let me just pause it, and I'll be back. Okay, we're back, and did you notice what went wrong? If you didn't, that's okay. I missed it also. But let me show quickly, recreate the availability group, and I'll show you where I went wrong. Where when I failed over, I could not access the database 1 and 2. It was inaccessible, and I'll show you what I did incorrectly, so you'll figure it. I don't like to restart the video and let you not understand what went wrong, because just in case you come across these kind of issues or neglect, if you will, or mistakes, then it's easy to understand what went wrong. So we're back to server 1. Server 2 doesn't have any databases here, and we're going to quickly go through the whole process of creating an always on. So what we did, and I'll show you what I missed, where I could not access rep 1 and rep 4, and there's the data. So let's just quickly create a new group, and we'll just go through this quickly. We'll just call it 1, 2, 3 again, and I'll show you what I missed right here. So we selected the databases, so that was easy. We added a replica server 2, that was easy. So let's connect to that first. And this is what I did wrong here. I selected both of these, but I did not make the secondary or the primary readable. I only went like this and selected this. So when we failed over from the secondary server 2 to the primary server 1 after the failover, it was readable. It wasn't readable, so we can. It was inaccessible. So we need to make sure this is also yes. So that's important also. So let's make sure we do that. And again, that was the reason here. But again, I want you to understand that also. So how to fix problems if we get them. Everybody gets them. So let's look at the static IP address. And let's add this right here. So 198.162.0.55. 198.198. Go OK. Next. And this won't take long, but again, very important to understand some of the mistakes you make and how to correct them. So that's why I'm continuing with this rather than kind of pausing it and not showing it to you. Oops, what happened here? 192. So that certainly helps if you haven't created one, but the good thing is that we can create one here. So if we don't create it here, we can create it here. So let's call it RA. And again, different ways of solving problems. Let's make that static. Add, and the IP is 192.168. Oops. 168.0.55. Hopefully that'll work now. And okay, and that's looks like it's going to work. 192.168.55. Yep. So it should create the listener that we need. And there we go. So now if we actually let's refresh this. And now let's look at, maybe we did something wrong here. If not, we're going to have to go through this whole process again. So what happened here? Maybe we didn't catch it up. So let's add a replica. Or actually, let's remove the replicas. That's a great thing. So let's remove this so we can look at this also. I was going to go over some of these kind of things later on, but it's good they're here. So now we don't have a replica. So now we're going to add a replica. So available, add replica, and go. And add replica, add two, make them synchronous. Make sure we choose yes, next, yes. So this will save me a video actually from showing that. So we got to configure the listener, so let's do that now. Or we can do it later. So that looks good also. Let's look at this. I think the properties of that's already configured, so we're good there. So now we've got two databases, two replicas with the various databases. So let's do a failover and see if it works. So all this is good stuff. I do not want to restart it because these are the problems you may get. And obviously everything is green. So primary is 1, secondary 2. We're going to switch roles. And let's do that now. Let's connect to it, and we've gone through this. That's why I'm being a little fast here. But this is all good learning. I always learn even from my own mistakes. Because this is how you learn how to fix problems. And the more you go through these problems, the better it's going to be for you. Because when you confront this, you go, oops, what happened here? You realize, hey, you didn't set the read configuration, so that's changed. Now, obviously, if we just go over here, refresh the databases, they're synchronized. Let's refresh this and look at the data, and everything is fine here. Can we access the databases? Yes, we can. Let's go to server 1. Yeah, let's collapse that. We don't need that right now. Let's go to, now remember here, primary 1, if we refresh this, it should change, which it does. And let's see if we can access rep 1 and rep 4, which we couldn't. And that's because we did not set it up for read-only. And there we go. So now we can. So we're good. So that was that little mistake here. And now we know how to add a listener if we had to do it independently after the fact. We know how to add a replica and remove replicas if we had to, which, as I said, saves me a video from doing it. And that's it. So now if I wanted to remove always on features. Now this is just one group. This is just one group. Let's create another always on actually. So I'm going to actually create another database. I'm going to call it rep 5. Oops, rep 5. So what I'm illustrating now obviously is that we can actually create another group. This is a group for those two databases. And if you look at the properties here, by default, it should be full. So then we're good. So I'm going to create another database to go along with it. I'm going to call this rep 6. And then what I'm going to do is push these two separately in an always on. So now we have those two. Obviously we have to take backups of these. So let's go over here and let's copy this. And you can do certainly this on your own. Let's paste it. Oops. Let's paste it. Let's paste it again. And then just change the 5 and 6 here. 5, make sure you change the paths also. 5, 5, I think we're good there. Oops, that's 5, that's 6. It's the little things that you have to pay attention to. So backup database 5, we're good. Backup data 6, we're good. So if we highlight this and execute, we should be good. Now let's look at creating another always on available group for database 5, and 6. So let's go back here. So remember, this is one group. So now we're going to create actually a new availability group wizard. So we're going to go through the whole process again. And let's call this 4, 5, 6. And again, we can select the appropriate ones, 5 and 6. Next. And we're going to do exactly the same things as we did. Make sure we check these. Make sure we check these. This is why we got that error. So we got yeses in here, synchronous, endpoints. Oops, let's look at this. Endpoints and proper service accounts. Backup is fine. We need a listener for this now. So let's call this RPA, port 1433. And now obviously this is going to have the next IP address, which was 56. So 192.168.0.56. And go next and next. And we've gone through this process before, so it's relatively straightforward. Nothing is dissimilar. The only thing we're doing is creating an extra AG group. And now you'll see how you can fail that. So you can have multiple groups if you wish. So 4, 5, 6 has those two databases, whereas 1, 2, 3 has the other databases. And we can actually move them individually as groups to the various servers that we've put in our AG groups. So again, that seems to be another video scene that I was going to illustrate, but that's fine. So we can do it in this one. So that looks good also. So if we close this, and now if I highlight this and refresh it, you'll see that I have two availability groups, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. And if I expand that, and if I expand that, you'll see the identical data, but relevant to those AG groups. That one obviously being 1, 2, 3, and that one being thing. So let's actually fail over and see what happens if we can fail over. If you look at here, and I have the databases 1 and 4, I'm going to actually just fail over this one. So I'm going to right click, or actually let's look at the dashboard. And now remember, look at these servers, but look at these are going to be identical, obviously, because they're primary servers and secondary servers, but the databases are different. So if I go start failover and go next, let's connect to that secondary server, next. And remember, the only thing that is being affected is that secondary group called 4, 5, 6 with these two databases. And remember, here we don't have, like fresh it, we don't have, well, we do in a second because we've already started it. But that's what it's doing right now. It's actually going to be replicating those two servers on that one. So now we have two secondary groups on the secondary server here. So as you can see, this is a great technology that allows you to migrate data, and we can view it here, and we can view it here, and same thing here. So if I expand the databases here, let's do a failover back. So let's go back here and look at the AG group, and let's see if I can fail over those two groups. Where are my groups? Let's refresh it. And there we go. So let's refresh that and look at the groups. So everything works fine. So actually, let's look at this. And let's do another failover of that group. Let's start the failover. So you can see how easy it is to fail over groups of databases when you're using AG groups. So this is a great technology, and it allows you to, because it's read-only, you can do backups on the secondary databases. You can report, do SSRS. When I talk about SSRS, which is a reporting system, and which I do, then you'll be understand how this becomes important also. So it's very easy to do this now, and if I refresh it, everything is fine, and roles are changing, and everything is being synced. So if I do that, everything should be synced because we're in synchronous mode. Same here. If I refresh it. So that gives you an idea of how to do availability groups, and one of the solutions for HS solutions for disaster recovery. This is a great means of having multiple databases in different locations for disaster recovery. And I think that's all I'm going to do talk about here. I would strongly recommend you kind of play around with the GUI interface, look at failing over, do what I did, kind of break it if you will, and then try to do it again so you get familiar with, hey, I didn't do the synchronization, or I didn't do this. The other thing I want you to note is obviously we're doing synchronized mode, and that's because we checked it. If we uncheck that, then obviously we'll have asynchronous mode. So that's the only difference here. Here you'll have identical data, and obviously in the reporting environment, I would certainly select synchronous mode, because when I want live reports to be written to my upper management or the presidents and so on, I want to be absolutely accurate in my reporting system. But we'll talk about reports when we talk about SSRS. But this is important to have synchronized data. But remember what synchronized means versus asynchronous. This is 100% synchronous, whereas asynchronous is not 100%, and you can lose some data because it is not synchronous. So I think I'm going to leave it here. I think that's all I wanted to talk about HA Solutions, called availability groups and how you set it up. Just take a note, actually, of some of the mistakes that I made, because you'll learn from them, and that's the best way to actually do them. And remember, this is the script I'll give you, which you can just drop the availability group and then restore the databases, and even drop the databases if you don't need them. So I'm going to leave it here, and we'll continue with the next thing we're going to be talking about is clustering. And while log shipping, while database mirroring, and while replication and HA Solution always on has been at the database level, we're trying to protect our database level and redundancies for disaster recovery. What clustering does is actually cover the entire system. So I'll show you that it's the entire server itself that if it goes down, along with the application, along with every single database within it. So that's what clustering does. It's a copy of the entire box and with what's contained within it, and it's a duplicate of that box. So if that box fails, then we can go migrate to the other box. That's in a nutshell what a two-node cluster is, and that's what I'll be talking about there. Now, most likely I haven't decided yet, but I may start from the scratch, although we've got an environment of DC and server 1 and server 2. But for learning purposes, I may start from scratch and show you we went through how to create a DC, how to create server 1, server 2, how to actually create the AG again, the Active Directory, how to do the failover clustering services, how to do IP addresses, and all that kind of stuff we've been talking about. So I think I may just start from scratch, so it's a better refresher for you also. And so I think I'll leave it here, and I hope you enjoyed this particular one as much as I enjoyed teaching you about HA Solution Always On. So my name is Rafael, and this is how to become a production SQL database administrator. See you in the next video.